The Kalrathi ambassador's claws scraped against the marble floor as she circled Commander Lucas Grant. Her violet eyes gleamed with predatory amusement. Your species fascinates me, human. You sit at negotiation tables while your worlds burn. You smile while we take your colonies. You offer treaties we will never honor. Lucas remained still in his chair, hands folded on the table. The orbital station's viewport showed 3 Kalarathi warships blocking Earth's supply routes. 48 hours until the homeworld starved. We came here for peace, Lucas said quietly. The ambassador laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Peace is for the weak. My people have conquered 17 species. All of them begged like you do now. She leaned closer, her breath hot against his face. Your federation will dissolve within the year. Your colonies will serve us. Your children will forget they were ever human. Is that your final position? It is reality, Commander. She straightened, turning toward her guards. This meeting is over. Prepare your world for occupation. Lucas stood slowly. His hand moved to his belt. Not to the standard issue plasma sidearm. To something older, something the Kalarathi had never seen before. The blade left its sheath with a whisper of steel on leather. The ambassador froze. Her guards raised their plasma rifles, but she lifted one claw to stop them. Her eyes locked onto the weapon in Lucas's hand. Curved, simple, 30 inches of folded carbon steel that predated spaceflight by centuries. What is that? Her voice had changed. The mockery was gone. A katana, Lucas said. My great-grandfather carried it at Okinawa. My grandfather at Seoul. My father in the Belt Uprising. He held it level, the blade catching the starlight. It's been in my family for 300 years. The ambassador's scales rippled. A biological response Lucas had studied in the briefings. Recognition of a warrior culture. The Kalrathi respected only one thing. You would challenge me? Here? Now? Her voice held something new. Not fear. Interest. I'm offering you a choice, Lucas said. Walk away from Earth. Find easier prey. Or learn why humanity didn't get soft during our century of peace. He shifted his stance, and every guard in the room tensed. We got patient. The ambassador's eyes narrowed. One human with a primitive blade against my entire fleet? One human who knows where this ends. Lucas's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Do you? The silence stretched. The Kalthri guards waited for orders. The human delegation behind Lucas held their breath. Then the ambassador smiled, not with mockery, with genuine curiosity. Perhaps we should continue this discussion under different terms. Lucas didn't lower the blade. Much different terms. The negotiation chamber had emptied except for Lucas and Ambassador Vectra. Her guards waited outside, a concession that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. She circled him like a moon orbiting a planet, her gaze never leaving the katana. Your weapon tells a story, Vectra said. The Kalrathi understand stories written in steel. Lucas rotated the blade slowly, letting light dance along its edge. Then you know this isn't a threat. It's a promise. Explain. Humans don't draw blades for show. We draw them when talking is finished. He met her eyes. I'm giving you the chance to keep talking. Vectra's scales shifted from violet to deep crimson. Battle readiness. Your fleet is scattered across 12 sectors. Your defense grid has gaps we've already mapped. 3 of your colony worlds have no military presence whatsoever. You cannot win a war against us. You're right. Lucas sheathed the katana in one smooth motion. The click of steel meeting wood echoed through the chamber. We'd lose ships, lose worlds, lose millions of lives. He sat back down at the table. But you'd lose something you've never lost before. And what is that? Sleep. Vectra stopped moving. Elaborate. Lucas pulled up a holographic display. Star charts filled the air between them. You've conquered 17 species. Every single one of them fought you head-on. Fleet against fleet, world against world. When their armies broke, they surrendered. He highlighted human colony positions. Thousands of settlements spread across 200 light years. We won't do that. You would resort to guerrilla tactics? Hiding like cowards? We'd resort to winning. Lucas zoomed in on a Kalrati supply depot. Your empire spans 43 systems. You need trade routes, manufacturing centers, agricultural worlds, all of it connected by predictable shipping lanes. He traced a line through human space. Every single route you use crosses through our territory. Vectra's eyes widened slightly. You would attack civilian infrastructure? We'd attack everything. Lucas's voice remained calm, almost conversational. A human named Lawrence once wrote that wars are won by making the enemy realize they cannot win. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. He closed the display. Your fleets would take Earth in a month, maybe less. But every shipment after that, every convoy, every garrison on every conquered world. He leaned forward. You'd never know when we'd strike, never know where, never know how many of us were still out there. The Kalrathi do not fear insurgents. The Kalrathi have never fought humans. Lucas stood again. We're a young species, Ambassador. We've only been in space for 2 centuries, but we've been at war with each other for 10,000 years. He walked to the viewport. Earth hung below, blue and fragile. We've perfected every kind of warfare you can imagine, and several you can't. Vectra joined him at the window. This is an interesting threat, but threats mean nothing without capability. 3 days ago, a package was delivered to your flagship. Lucas didn't look at her. Small, about the size of a human fist. It was scanned 17 times. Passed every security protocol you have. Your second-in-command signed for it personally. The ambassador's scales went white. How do you know this? Because we sent it. Lucas finally turned to face her. It's sitting in your personal quarters right now. Completely harmless. Just a data chip with a message. He paused. We put it there to prove a point. If we can reach your quarters on your flagship while you're negotiating with us, what else can we reach? Vectra's claws extended involuntarily. A threat display. You dare! I dare nothing! Lucas interrupted. I'm simply being honest. You wanted to know what kind of species we are. Now you know. He gestured to the katana at his hip. We're the kind that carries swords into space. We're the kind that remembers every warrior who came before us. We're the kind that would rather die fighting than live kneeling. The ambassador was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice had changed again. Harder, more focused. What are your terms? Withdraw your blockade. Leave human space entirely. Establish a neutral zone between our territories. And in exchange, we won't become your nightmare. Lucas extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. We'll even consider an alliance, eventually, once you've proven you can be trusted. Vectra stared at the offered hand. In Kalrathi culture, touching another warrior was reserved for blood bonds, lifetime commitments. She looked from his hand to his face to the katana at his side. Then she did something no Kalrathi ambassador had ever done. She reached out and gripped his hand. You are either the bravest human I have ever met or the most insane. Lucas smiled for the first time. Among my people, those are usually the same thing. The Kalrathi fleet withdrew within 6 hours. News feeds across human space erupted with celebration. Politicians claimed credit. Military analysts called it a miracle. But in a private room on the orbital station, Lucas Grant sat alone with a bottle of whiskey he couldn't bring himself to open. The door chimed. He didn't need to look up. "Come in, Ambassador." Vectra entered without her guards. Her diplomatic robes were gone, replaced by combat armor that bore the scars of 100 battles. She carried a blade of her own now, a curved Kalrithi war sword that hummed with contained energy. "You lied to me," she said. Lucas finally looked up. "About what?" "The package." "There was nothing in my quarters." She sat across from him, the chair groaning under her armored weight. "I had every centimeter of my flagship searched. Nothing. You bluffed." "Did I?" Vectra's scales flickered with amusement. "You did, and it was magnificent." She leaned back. "I checked the delivery logs. No package was ever scanned. No one signed for anything. You read me perfectly. Knew I wouldn't verify during our negotiation because it would show weakness." She laughed. That same glass-breaking sound. "You defeated me with words and confidence alone. Then why are you here? Why not turn your fleet around?" "Because you were also telling the truth." Vectra pulled up her own holographic display. It showed human colony positions overlaid with Kalrathi supply routes. "I spent the flight back analyzing your territory. You were correct. Every major shipping lane we use passes within striking distance of human settlements." She highlighted dozens of potential choke points. "An insurgency in your space would cripple our empire within a year." Lucas poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Vectra sniffed hers suspiciously. "It's called bourbon," he said. "Kentucky's finest." She took a small sip, and her eyes widened. "This is formidable. So are you." Lucas raised his glass. "To honest enemies. To worthy opponents." She drained half the glass in one swallow. "I came here for another reason, Commander. A personal one. I'm listening." Vector set down her glass. Her scales shifted through colors Lucas had never seen. Uncertainty, vulnerability. In Kalrathi culture, when 2 warriors acknowledge each other's strength, a bond forms. It is called the Vaktesh, the recognition of equal danger. Sounds familiar. We call it respect. It is more than respect. Vectra's voice dropped lower. It is the foundation of our strongest partnerships, our most enduring alliances. She stood and drew her war sword. The blade crackled with blue energy. "I wish to formalize the Vaktesh between us, not as nations, as individuals." Lucas stood as well, hand moving to his katana. "What does that entail?" "A duel. Non-lethal. First blood." She moved to the center of the room. "If you win, I will become your advocate in the Kalrathi Dominion. I will argue for human sovereignty. I will ensure no other fleet threatens your worlds. And if you win," Vectra's scales flushed deep red, "then you will accompany me back to the Dominion as my consort, as my equal." She raised her blade. "It is the highest honor a Kalthrathi warrior can offer." Lucas processed this. "You want to marry me? Your term is crude but accurate." She settled into a fighting stance that was both alien and familiar, balanced, controlled, deadly. "Among my people, strength attracts strength. You faced me without fear. You outthought me without arrogance. You showed me that humans are worthy of something we have never given another species." "What's that?" "Partnership." Lucas drew his katana slowly. The ancient steel sang as it cleared the sheath. "This is insane. You told me those are the same thing among your people." Vectra smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Show me I was right to spare your world, Commander. Show me humans are everything you claimed." They circled each other. Lucas had trained in Kenjutsu since childhood. He'd studied historical masters. He'd fought in 3 border conflicts and never lost a blade-to-blade engagement. But Vectra moved like liquid violence. Every step was efficient. Every micro-adjustment of her stance was perfect. She struck first. The energy blade screamed through the air where his head had been. Lucas rolled under the swing and came up slashing. His katana met her armor and skittered off without leaving a mark. "You'll need to be faster than that," Vectra said. Lucas didn't answer. He feinted left, then drove forward with a thrust aimed at her exposed neck joint. She twisted impossibly fast, and her blade came down in a counter that would have split him in half if he hadn't thrown himself backward. They separated, both breathing hard. "You're better than I expected," Lucas admitted. "You're still holding back?" Vectra's scales blazed crimson. "Fight me like you meant every word you said at that table. Fight me like Earth depends on it." Something shifted in Lucas. She was right. He'd been cautious, defensive, treating this like a sparring match instead of what it truly was. A test. He exploded forward with a speed that surprised even himself. The katana became a silver blur. High cut, low sweep, spinning strike, overhead chop. Every technique his family had perfected over centuries poured out in a devastating combination. Vectra met him blow for blow. Their blades clashed in showers of sparks and energy. The room filled with the sound of steel against plasma, ancient against modern, human against Kalrathi. She was stronger. He was faster. She had reach. He had precision. She fought with the confidence of 100 victories. He fought with the desperation of someone defending everything he loved. The duel lasted 90 seconds. It felt like hours. Lucas saw his opening when Vectra overcommitted to a power strike. He ducked under the energy blade, pivoted, and brought his katana up in a rising cut that slipped between armor plates and drew a thin line of purple blood across her shoulder. First blood. They froze. Both warriors stood perfectly still, blades extended, chests heaving. Then Vectra started laughing. Not mockery this time, pure joy. Magnificent. She lowered her weapon and touched the cut on her shoulder. Absolutely magnificent. She looked at Lucas with something that might have been admiration or might have been something deeper. "You have won, Commander Lucas Grant. I am bound by the Vaktesh to serve your interests." Lucas sheathed his katana. "I don't want a servant, Ambassador." "Then what do you want?" He extended his hand again. "A partner, an ally, someone who'll tell me when I'm wrong and fight beside me when I'm right." Vectra stared at his hand for a long moment. Then she did something that would change the course of galactic history. She dropped her war sword and pulled Lucas into a Kalathi embrace, powerful enough to crack human ribs. "You strange, wonderful, terrifying creature," she whispered. "I accept." The marriage ceremony took place 3 weeks later on neutral ground, a luxury liner positioned exactly between human and Kalrathi space. Diplomats from 40 species attended, most of them trying to understand what they were witnessing. Lucas stood at the altar in his dress uniform, the katana at his side polished to mirror brightness. Vectra wore ceremonial armor that had belonged to her ancestors, each plate inscribed with the names of warriors who had worn it before. Her scales shimmered in colors that shifted between violet and gold. A human chaplain and a Kalathi war priest conducted the ceremony together. Words in 2 languages, traditions from 2 worlds. When they exchanged blades instead of rings, half the audience gasped. "This is a terrible idea," Captain Helen Bradford whispered from the front row. She was Lucas's commanding officer and had flown from Earth specifically to talk him out of this. "Probably," agreed Lieutenant Marcus Chen, Lucas's second in command. "But look at them. When has he ever looked that certain about anything? Helen had to admit Marcus was right. Lucas wore the expression of a man who knew exactly what he was doing, even if it defied all logic. The ceremony concluded with a Kalrathi ritual that involved scarring. Vectra drew her blade across her palm. Then Lucas did the same with his katana. They pressed their bleeding hands together while both priests recited words about shared blood and shared fate. When they separated, matching scars marked their palms, permanent, irreversible, by the authority vested in me by the United Earth Federation and the Kalrathi Dominion. The human chaplain said, I now pronounce you bonded warriors. You may seal the union. Kalrathi didn't kiss. Instead, Vectra placed her forehead against Lucas's, a gesture of absolute trust. In her culture, exposing your throat and skull to another warrior meant offering your life. The audience erupted in applause, some genuine, some confused, some horrified. The reception was even stranger. Humans tried Kalrathi blood wine and immediately regretted it. Kalrathi sampled human champagne and declared it aggressively pleasant. Cultural exchanges happened in real time, often with disastrous results. Lucas found Helen on the observation deck an hour into the celebration. She stared out at the stars with a glass of something strong. You really did it, she said without looking at him. Married an alien warlord. Ambassador, Lucas corrected. She's an ambassador now. She's commanded fleets that burned worlds to ash. Helen finally turned to face him. Lucas, I've known you for 15 years. You're the most rational officer I've ever served with. This is not rational. No, it's strategic. Lucas joined her at the viewport. The Kalrathi Dominion has been expanding for 2 centuries. They've never stopped, never negotiated, never compromised, until now. He gestured back toward the reception where Vectra was engaged in animated conversation with a Terran diplomat. She's changing their entire foreign policy because of what happened in that negotiation room. Because you bluffed her. Because I showed her we were worth more as allies than as conquests. Lucas sipped his drink. And because somewhere in that conversation, we both realized we'd finally met someone who understood us. Helen shook her head. You're talking about love with someone who has acid for blood and could snap you in half. I'm talking about partnership with someone who values the same things I do. Strength, honor, honesty, the willingness to fight for what matters. He smiled. The fact that she's beautiful by her species standards doesn't hurt. You think she's beautiful? You should see her in combat armor. Lucas's expression softened. She moves like poetry written in violence. She thinks 3 moves ahead in every conversation. She challenged me to be better than I thought I could be. He looked at Helen directly. Yeah, I think she's beautiful. Before Helen could respond, alarms screamed throughout the ship. Emergency lights flashed red. A voice crackled over the intercom. All personnel to emergency stations. Unidentified vessels approaching at combat speed. Lucas was moving before the announcement finished. He hit the reception at a dead run, Vectra right beside him. They reached the command center together, their different strides somehow synchronized. The tactical display showed 6 ships dropping out of hyperspace. Not Kalrathi, not human. The configuration was unfamiliar, but the intent was crystal clear. They were moving into attack formation. Who are they? Lucas demanded. The ship's captain, a nervous man named Phillips, pulled up what data they had. Signatures matched the Zelnari collective. They've been quiet for the last decade, but intelligence reports suggested they were building up military strength. Vectra studied the display, her combat training evident in how she assessed the threat. They're positioning for a simultaneous strike. They want to destroy this ship and everyone on it. Her scales darken to battle crimson. They want to kill the Alliance before it begins. Why would they care? Marcus asked, arriving breathless at the command center. Because we scare them. Lucas pulled up the wider strategic map. Look, Zelnari's space is positioned between human territory and the Kalrathi Dominion. If we're enemies, they play us against each other, profit from our conflict. But if we're allies, we surround them. Vectra finished. A united front of two warrior species. They would have no leverage, no safety.
She turned to Phillips.
What are this vessel's defensive capabilities? Minimal. We're a luxury liner, not a warship. Shields rated for debris, not weapons fire. No offensive armaments. Then we die here unless we think of something brilliant in the next 2 minutes, Helen said flatly. Lucas and Vectra looked at each other. No words passed between them, but something did. An understanding, a calculation, a shared decision. We don't defend, Lucas said. We attack, Vectra finished. Everyone stared at them. With what? Phillips practically shrieked. We have nothing to attack with. Vectra smiled, showing all her teeth. We have the two most dangerous weapons in this sector. She drew her war sword. Fear and reputation. Lucas understood immediately. He turned to the communications officer. Open a channel to the Zelnari fleet. All frequencies. Make sure every ship in range can hear this. The officer hesitated, then complied. Channel open, Commander. Lucas spoke with absolute certainty. Zelnari vessels, this is Commander Lucas Grant of the United Earth Federation. You are targeting a ship containing diplomatic representatives from 40 species, including my wife, Ambassador Vectra of the Kalrathi Dominion.
He paused.
You have 30 seconds to withdraw or discover exactly why humans and Kalrathi just became allies. Vectra stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. I am Vectra, Blade of the Dominion, Breaker of the Turthan Line, Conqueror of the Veil Nebula. The human speaks truth. Arm this vessel, and you will face the combined wrath of two species that have never, in all of history, lost a war we committed to winning. Silence filled the channel. The Zelnari ships continued their approach. 20 seconds, 15, 10, then, at 5 seconds, they changed course. All 6 vessels broke formation and jumped back into hyperspace without firing a single shot. The command center erupted in cheers. Lucas and Vectra stood together, weapons still drawn, watching the tactical display. That was a bluff, too, Helen said quietly. Yes, Lucas agreed, but they don't know that. Vectra sheathed her war sword. Now they will tell others. The story will spread. Humans and Kalrathi united on their wedding day, faced down a fleet with nothing but words and reputation. She took Lucas's hand. We just became the most dangerous partnership in known space without firing a shot. Lucas squeezed her hand, feeling the fresh scar on her palm against his own. Not a bad start to a marriage. For humans, perhaps this is normal? Vectra's scales flickered with amusement. Not even close. Lucas pulled her toward the door. Come on, we have a reception to finish. After we were nearly killed? Especially after we were nearly killed, Lucas grinned. It's tradition. Though usually the danger comes from embarrassing family members, not alien fleets. Vectra's laugh echoed through the corridor as they returned to their wedding celebration, leaving behind a command crew that was only beginning to understand what they had just witnessed, the beginning of something that would reshape the galaxy. 6 months into the marriage, Lucas learned that living with a Kalrathi warrior was nothing like the diplomatic briefings suggested. Vectra had moved into his quarters on Earth's primary orbital defense station. She'd immediately rearranged everything according to Kalrathi efficiency standards, which meant weapons within arm's reach of every doorway and sleeping platform positioned for maximum tactical advantage. She also didn't sleep, not the way humans did. Lucas woke at 3 in the morning to find her doing blade drills in their living space, the war sword humming as it carved patterns through the air. This was the 5th night in a row. "You're going to cut through the hull eventually," he said, sitting up. Vectra completed her form before acknowledging him. "The hull is reinforced titanium. My blade would need 17 seconds of sustained contact to compromise it." She sheathed the weapon. "I am not reckless. You're restless." Lucas stood and moved to the kitchen unit. Coffee for him. Blood wine for her? Morning routine. "What's wrong?" "I received communication from the Dominion." Vectra's scales shifted to dark purple. "Concern. The High Council is not pleased with our alliance. They view it as weakness." "My weakness specifically." Lucas handed her the wine. "They think you've gone soft on humans. They think I have been compromised by inferior genetics and primitive culture." She drank, then set the glass down harder than necessary. 3 council members have called for my exile. 2 have suggested I be stripped of rank and title. Can they do that? If they achieve majority vote, yes. Vectra turned to the viewport. Earth rotated below, blue and green and impossibly fragile. "I have allies on the council, but they grow fewer each day. The military faction wants to resume expansion. They see human space as the logical next target." Lucas felt ice in his chest. "How long until they move?" "Unknown. Months, perhaps. Maybe less if they can prove I have betrayed Kalrathi interests." She looked at him. "They are watching us, Lucas. Every transmission, every decision. They wait for me to choose you over my people. And if you had to choose?" Vectra's scales went still, completely motionless, which Lucas had learned meant she was exercising absolute control over her emotions. "I would choose neither. I would find a third option. That is what warriors do." Before Lucas could respond, his comm unit chimed. Captain Helen Bradford's face appeared, looking worse than he'd ever seen her. "Lucas, we have a situation. Conference room. Now." Both of you, they arrived within minutes. The conference room was packed. Human military brass, diplomatic corps, intelligence officers. And on the main screen, a Kalrathi Lucas didn't recognize. Male. Massive, covered in battle scars that suggested a long and violent career. "Commander Grant," Helen said formally. "Ambassador Vectra, this is War Leader Tarkesh of the Kalrathi Second Fleet. He's requested emergency communication." Tarkesh's eyes locked onto Vectra. When he spoke, his voice carried contempt that needed no translation. "Vectra, you shame yourself and our species with this charade." Vectra's scales blazed crimson. "Battle ready." "I shame nothing, Tarkesh. I have secured peace and potential alliance. I have expanded Kalrathi influence through strategy instead of bloodshed. You have spread your legs for a primitive and called it diplomacy." Tarkesh leaned forward. "The council has made its decision. You are summoned home to face judgment. You will return within 10 days or be declared outlaw. Your titles will be revoked. Your family dishonored. Your name erased from the halls of warriors." Lucas stepped forward. "She's not going anywhere alone." Tarkesh's attention shifted to him. "The human speaks. How quaint." His scales rippled with dark amusement. "Tell me, Commander Grant, how does it feel to be a political pawn? Do you believe she loves you? Or do you understand that you are simply a tool she uses to advance her ambitions?" "I understand that you're trying to provoke me," Lucas said calmly. "It won't work." "No?" Tarkesh smiled, showing rows of crystalline teeth. Then perhaps this will interest you. The council has authorized me to make an offer. Ambassador Vectra may retain her titles, her position, and her honor. All she must do is annul this mockery of a marriage and return home immediately, alone. The room went silent. Every human eye turned to Vectra. Lucas could feel the tension, the question nobody wanted to ask. Would she choose her career or her husband? Vectra stood perfectly still for 5 heartbeats. Then she started laughing. Not the glass-breaking sound of amusement. A deeper sound, darker. The laugh of a warrior who had just been mortally insulted. You offer me titles? She moved closer to the screen. I have earned 17 battle honors. I have commanded fleets that conquered star systems. I have negotiated treaties that reshaped galactic politics. And you think I value the Council's approval more than my own judgment? Her scales went black. Pure rage. You insult me, Tarkesh. You insult everything I have achieved. And you gravely insult my husband. Tarkesh's confidence wavered. The Council is afraid. Vectra cut him off. They fear what Lucas and I represent. A new path forward. Evolution beyond endless conquest. They fear becoming irrelevant. She drew her horse. Tell the Council I will return to face their judgment. But I will not return alone. I will not annul my marriage, and I will not apologize for choosing partnership over domination. Then you choose exile, Tarkesh said flatly. I choose honor. Vectra raised her blade in salute. See you in 10 days, war leader. I suggest you bring your best arguments. You will need them. She cut the transmission. The silence that followed was absolute. Helen broke it first. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Both Lucas and Vectra said simultaneously. Marcus leaned forward. What's the play here? You can't go to the Calvrati homeworld. It's a trap. They'll arrest you the moment you arrive. They will try. Vectra sheathed her weapon, but Calpriati law is specific. I have the right to trial by council. Public trial. They must hear my defense before passing judgment. And you'll defend yourself by saying, what exactly, Helen asked? That marrying a human was good for the Dominion? They clearly don't believe that. No, Vectra looked at Lucas. I will defend myself by proving it. Lucas understood immediately. You want to bring evidence, concrete proof that the Alliance benefits both species. More than that, Vectra pulled up a star chart. I want to show them what humans and Calrathi can accomplish together. Something impossible for either species alone. Something so impressive that even the Council cannot ignore it. Like what? Someone asked. Vectra highlighted a sector of space that bordered both human and Calrathi territory. The Void Reach. Uncharted space. 60 star systems completely unexplored because the radiation levels destroy standard ship electronics. Sensors fail. Navigation fails. Every expedition sent there has disappeared. Lucas studied the chart. What's in there? Unknown. But long-range scans suggest massive resource deposits, possibly habitable worlds. Definitely strategic value. Vectra looked around the room. The Calrathi have tried to explore it 17 times. We have lost 17 ships. Your Federation has attempted 8 expeditions, 8 failures. And you think we can succeed together? Helen sounded skeptical. I know we can. Vectra pulled up technical specifications. Calrathi ships have superior shielding. Human ships have adaptive AI that can compensate for sensor interference. Calrathi warriors excel at close-quarters combat. Human tactics excel at improvisation and adaptation. She looked at Lucas. Together we cover each other's weaknesses. Together we might survive what neither species could alone. Marcus whistled low. That's one hell of a wedding present to bring to your family. It's more than that, Lucas said quietly. It's proof that the alliance isn't just political theater. It's proof that humans and Kalrathi are stronger together than apart. He met Vectra's eyes. It's proof that you were right to marry me. Vectra's scales shifted through a dozen colors. Pride, affection, determination. Will you come with me into the Void Reach, husband? Will you risk everything on this gamble? Lucas drew his katana and held it horizontally, the formal acceptance pose his grandfather had taught him. I didn't marry you for the easy days. I married you for days exactly like this. Vectra placed her war sword across his blade. 2 weapons, 2 warriors, 2 species, united. Then we leave tomorrow, she said. We have 9 days to explore the Void Reach, survive its dangers, and return with proof that will save my career and our alliance.
No pressure, Helen muttered.
Lucas sheathed his katana. We've done more with less. Remember the blockade? You mean when you bluffed your way past an entire fleet with nothing but confidence and a delivery log lie? Helen shook her head. Yeah, I remember. I also remember thinking you were insane. Still insane? Lucas agreed. But now I have backup. Vectra's laugh filled the room. Indeed you do, husband. Indeed you do. The Void Reach lived up to its reputation. Within 2 hours of entering the sector, both ships started failing. Lucas commanded the human vessel Defiant, a modified exploration cruiser with experimental AI systems. Vectra commanded the Kalrathi warship Blood Oath, a destroyer with shield generators powerful enough to protect a small fleet. They traveled in formation, linked by quantum communication that barely functioned through the radiation interference. Sensors at 20%, Marcus reported from Defiant's bridge. Navigation drifting, compensating with manual calculations. Lucas watched the view screen shimmer and distort. Space itself looked wrong here. Colors that shouldn't exist, distances that didn't make sense. Vectra, status. Her voice crackled through the calm. Shields holding but degrading faster than projected. At current rate, we have 4 days before total failure. 3, if we encounter combat situations. Combat with what? Nothing lives out here. Nothing we know of, Vectra corrected. Remain vigilant. They pushed deeper. The radiation grew worse. Static filled every channel. Instruments gave contradictory readings. Twice, Marcus nearly jumped them into a star because the navigation charts couldn't agree on what was matter and what was empty space. On the 3rd day, they found something, a structure, floating in the void between 2 dead stars. Massive, ancient, definitely not natural. Are you seeing this? Lucas transmitted, confirmed. Vectra's voice held rare uncertainty. Architecture unknown. Materials unknown. Energy signature minimal but present. Something in there still has power after who knows how many millennia. Lucas made the decision instantly. We dock. We explore. We document everything.
Agreed.
The interior of the structure was breathable. Barely. The atmosphere was thin and stale. But their suits registered it as safe for limited exposure. Lucas led a team of 5 humans. Vectra brought 4 Kalrathi warriors. They moved through corridors that hurt to look at. Geometry that seemed to fold in on itself. Writing on the walls in languages nobody recognized. And at the center they found it. A chamber filled with technology. Power cores that still hummed with energy, data storage beyond anything either species had developed, manufacturing systems that could produce materials at the molecular level. This is impossible, Marcus breathed. This tech is centuries beyond us, maybe millennia. Vectra approached one of the consoles. Her claws moved over the controls experimentally. Lights flickered to life. Holographic displays activated, showing star charts that included both human and Kalrathi space, but labeled differently, as if whatever built this place had mapped the entire galaxy long before either species reached the stars. "This is what we needed," Lucas said. "This is proof of what exploration can achieve, what working together can accomplish." "It is more than that," Vectra said quietly. She'd found another section of the display. It showed species, dozens of them, rendered in perfect detail. "These are the 17 species that Kalrathi conquered. And these," she highlighted another group, "are species humanity encountered during expansion. And here," she pointed to a third section, "species that no longer existed, extinct, gone," with notations that suggested they destroyed themselves through warfare. "It's a warning," Marcus realized. "This whole place, it's a monument to what happens when species choose conflict over cooperation." An alarm shrieked. Defiant's voice crackled through their suit comms. "Commander, we're detecting incoming ships. Multiple signatures. They just dropped out of hyperspace at the sector boundary." Lucas's blood went cold. "Identification? Kalrathi Second Fleet. War Leader Tarkesh commanding. 23 warships and closing fast." Vectra's scales went black. "He followed us. The Council sent him to ensure I don't return. How long until they reach us?" 6 hours at their current speed." Lucas thought fast. They were outnumbered 23-2, outgunned by orders of magnitude. Their ships were already compromised by radiation. This should have been impossible to survive. Should have been. "Start downloading everything from this station," Lucas ordered. "Every file, every schematic, every piece of data." We transmitted all back to Earth and the Kalrathi homeworld simultaneously. "That will take hours," Marcus protested. "We don't have hours." "Then we buy time." Lucas turned to Vectra. "How much do you trust me?" "With my life. Always." "Good, because I have a plan that's even crazier than the last one." He pulled up the station's power core schematics. "This facility is still operational, still has weapon systems, defense platforms that make our ships look like toys. If we can activate them, they've been dormant for thousands of years." One of the Kalrathi warriors interrupted. "No guarantee they function, no guarantee they don't," Lucas countered. "Vectra, your people understand power systems better than we do. Can you get these cores running at full capacity?" "Possibly, but even if the weapons work, we cannot operate them from 2 ships while also defending against Tarkesh's fleet. We won't be in our ships." Lucas gestured to the vast control chamber. "We'll be here, using the station's defenses, making our stand where neither species could survive alone, but together we might." Vectra studied him for a long moment. Then she started issuing orders in Kalrathi, her warriors moving immediately to the power systems. "We do this, we cannot retreat. If the station fails, we die here. If we run, Tarkesh destroys us in open space, and the Alliance dies anyway." Lucas began coordinating with his team, assigning them to different sections of the ancient facility. "At least this way we go down fighting, and we take some of them with us." The next 5 hours were chaos. Humans and Kalrathi working side by side, deciphering alien technology, rerouting power, activating systems that had slept since before either species existed. The station came alive around them, lights, shields, and weapons that made modern arms look primitive. They finished with minutes to spare. Tarkesh's fleet emerged from the radiation like sharks through murky water. 23 warships in perfect formation. Enough firepower to level a planet. Lucas opened a channel. "War Leader Tarkesh, stand down. You're violating neutral space and threatening a joint scientific expedition." Tarkesh's face filled the screen. "There is nothing neutral about this, human. You and the traitor Vectra will surrender immediately or be destroyed. The Council has authorized lethal force." "The Council authorized you to murder one of your own warriors?" Vectra stepped into view beside Lucas. "Alpha, the Dominion has fallen. You chose this path when you married inferior genetics." Tarkesh signaled his fleet. "Final warning. Surrender or die." Lucas and Vectra looked at each other. No words needed. They'd already made this decision together. "Negative," Lucas said. "We're not surrendering. We're not running. We're standing our ground and showing you exactly what this alliance can do." He cut the transmission and activated the station's defenses. The ancient weapons came online with a sound like reality tearing. Energy cannons that bent space itself. Missile systems that tracked targets through dimensions humans hadn't discovered yet. Shield barriers that made Tarkesh's warships look like they were moving through honey. The battle lasted 12 minutes. Tarkesh lost 8 ships in the first volley. His remaining fleet scattered, trying to find firing solutions against an enemy they couldn't comprehend. But Lucas had human tactical innovation guiding those ancient systems, and Vectra had Kalrathi combat instinct, predicting every move Tarkesh made. Together, they were unstoppable. By the time Tarkesh called for retreat, he'd lost 17 ships. The survivors jumped to hyperspace in complete disarray. In the silence that followed, Lucas and Vectra stood together in the control chamber, surrounded by technology that proved civilizations could achieve incredible things, or destroy themselves trying. The data transmission completed, Marcus reported quietly. "Every government in human space has it. Every council member on the Kalrathi homeworld has it. They know what we found. They know what we did. And they know we survived what should have killed us," Vectra added. Together, Lucas took her hand. "Their matching scars pressed together. Think it's enough? For the Council? Perhaps. For the galaxy?" She gestured to the ancient chamber around them. "This is just the beginning." 3 days later, they returned to Kalrathi space. The homeworld loomed ahead, massive and hostile and beautiful in its own way. But this time, they didn't arrive as criminals. They arrived as heroes. The council chamber was packed. Thousands of Kalrathi warriors watched as Vectra presented their findings. The ancient station, the technology, the proof that cooperation achieved what conquest never could. War leader Tarkesh sat in disgrace, his defeat broadcast across the Dominion. When the vote came, it was unanimous. Vectra retained all titles and honors. The alliance with humanity was formally recognized. And for the first time in Kalrathi history, the Council authorized joint exploration missions instead of military expansion. Lucas stood beside his wife as she accepted the Council's judgment with grace that concealed her triumph. That night, on a balcony overlooking the Kalrathi capital, they watched 3 moons rise over an alien sky. "We changed everything," Vectra said softly. "The Dominion will never be the same." "Good," Lucas replied. "Neither will humanity. We're better together." "You really believe that?" Lucas drew his katana and held it next to her war sword. 2 blades, 2 traditions, 2 species that should have been enemies. I married you the moment you recognized what this blade represented. I'd do it again every day. Vectra's scales shimmered with colors Lucas had learned meant love. "Then we shall continue doing impossible things, husband. Together." "Together," Lucas agreed. And somewhere in the void between stars, an ancient station kept vigil, its databanks now holding the story of 2 warriors who proved that the strongest bonds weren't forged in conquest, but in mutual respect, shared danger, and the courage to choose partnership over domination. The galaxy would never be the same.